Israel require a building permit for a house that was built decades before the state of Israel even existed? Okay, I don't know the story behind that, but my guess is it was probably being used to house terrorists and shoot from there. Who knows what else? But they aren't just indiscriminately tearing down houses and buildings.
No, and for the record, if sometimes our settlers set up a building without a permit, the IDF will destroy that building as well.
And that's a Jewish person setting it up.
And that's a Jewish person. So for the record, people need to know that there's no double standard here.
Here's one. The moment a Palestinian took the gun from an Israeli security coordinator, opened fire near the West Bank village of Tel. One Israeli was shot dead. At least 2 others were injured by the gunfire of the Palestinian who snatched the weapon.
So Brennan, what happens? Sometimes before it happens, if they see that there's a terrorist, they will act indiscriminately instead of being the police or the soldiers, they will act as civilians.
Because it takes a while sometimes for the police or the military to get there.
What are you going to do? Wait 5 minutes? No. So it's sometimes kill or be killed.
So they're taking a lot of these stories and a lot of this footage completely out of context.
Out of context.
And they're making, in a lot of cases, they're just lying.
And they are lying. Exactly.
Now, they're claiming the person was an innocent Muslim or Arab, and they weren't innocent at all.
Going for a picnic in a Jewish area.
But remember, they call these people freedom fighters in some places, right? The Islamic terrorists.
Absolutely. Freedom fighters.
Yeah, they're murderers. They're terrorists. All right, Aaron LaVarco back tonight. We sent him another love offering today, folks. So support us as we support Aaron. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. May God save America and protect Israel. Take care.
Amen.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
You are not an army of one, and you are certainly not an army of woke. You are an American army, an army of warriors. 4 years ago, you raised your right hand and said, "Send me." The call is send us, not send he, not send she, not send they, them. The battlefield does not grade on a curve, and you can't throw your pronouns at the enemy. Diversity is not our strength. Unity is our strength. Our strength is our shared purpose. Our strength is our oath to the Constitution. It's our embrace of the Army values, the idea of merit, our mission, our absolute commitment to duty and honor and country. These are the things that unify us. When you're out there in your formations as platoon leaders at the tip of the spear, you will not compromise, you will not seek color, and you will not try to meet arbitrary quotas based on immutable characteristics. You do not have time to celebrate identity months, and you will not make excuses for yourselves, and you will not accept excuses from others. You will lead. What makes us different is that we don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us. May Almighty God bless the United States Army, and may Almighty God continue to bless this great republic, the United States of America. Beat Navy.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. You just heard the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, cut straight to the heart of it. Diversity is not our strength. Unity is. Send me becomes send us in our context. Duty, honor, country. For too long, that warrior ethos and that code has been under deliberate assault at the very place charged with forging America's future Army officers, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. Joining us today is a man who's lived it and is now fighting to restore it. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Ed Kennedy, a prior enlisted infantryman, graduate of West Point class of 1976, and an infantry officer after commissioning, and for nearly 2 decades as a graduate instructor at the Command and General Staff College, even after he left the Army. In his powerful new article for the MacArthur Society of West Point graduates, you should go check it out. It's titled Killing Woke at West Point. Colonel Kennedy lays out bare how DEI, critical race theory, and Marxist ideology metastasized inside the academy. He names names, faculty who rewrote history, elevated identity politics over warfighting, and even helped produce West Point's first openly communist graduate. He shows how duty, honor, country was quietly subordinated to race, gender, and grievance. Kennedy doesn't just diagnose the cancer, though. He calls for the cure, a clean sweep of the root causes, full support for Secretary Hegseth's war on woke, and a return to the timeless standards that once made West Point the envy of the free world. This isn't about politics, people. It's about whether the next generation of military officers will lead American soldiers into battle with honor or fracture them with Marxist ideology. Colonel Ed Kennedy, welcome back to the show, sir. It's good to see you. Well, I guess my first question is the ideal that the Academy has is that, as Secretary Hegseth's words, that it's set apart. It's supposed to be above politics. How far did West Point drift from that, and is it still drifting? I think you're muted, sir. Still don't have you. I think you're connected to a different audio output. Okay, we're going to lose him for a second there, but go check out Colonel Kennedy's article at the MacArthur Society for West Point graduates. That's a group set up along the same lines as the group that I'm on the board of advisors for, the STARS group, Stand Together Against Racism and Radicalism in the Services, which was set up originally about the Air Force Academy going woke and DEI. The MacArthur Society was created after STARS was created, and officer graduates had linked up to talk about what was going on. And Ed wrote this wonderful article. When we get him back, I have lots of questions. It's all from that article. I'm sorry I forgot to post it in the bubble for the X audience there. But maybe Shell can find it and get it put in there. But it's a lengthy and detailed article really about the people that brought this into West Point and how those people, even though they may be actually gone from the academy, they're still doing damage to not only West Point, but the United States military's officer corps, even beyond the Army. And that has to be addressed. The other thing that has to be addressed is how did Army officers who were professors at West Point at that time allow things like the first openly communist graduate to actually get through the course of instruction and graduate from that. Mr. Kennedy puts that in the article. How we doing, Thomas? Got him back? Okay. Sure. I don't see a picture yet, but I see his icon coming in. Testing. Hey, Mr. Kennedy, I can see you. Still can't hear you, though. Yeah, let's go ahead and go to commercial, Mr. Producer, and we'll be right back, folks, with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ed Kennedy.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. Healthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with asteryl astaxanthin and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
Introducing Worldview Tube Vault. Over 35 years of radio broadcasts, television programs, documentaries, and ebooks. Plus Worldviewpedia, our powerful search engine for instant worldview and Bible research. Join for as little as $7.99 a month. And now, Vault members get something brand new, courses. Our very first course is here, the Book of Revelation with Brannon House. 53 in-depth lessons, complete with overview quizzes, walking you verse by verse through one of the most important books in Scripture. Getting started is simple. Go to worldviewtube.com/vault and join today. Already a member? Visit worldviewtube.com, click the person icon in the top right, and log in. Then hover over Vault in the menu and select Courses. That's it. You're in. Join WorldviewTube Vault today at worldviewtube.com/vault.
Friends, this is Brannon House. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered-down, allegorized, replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to Whistleblower Wednesday, and I think we've got retired Lieutenant Colonel Ed Kennedy with us now. Ed, I appreciate you being with us today. It's a great article. We led with Secretary Hegseth's speech. You lead the article off in that, and he talks about how West Point is set apart and is supposed to be above politics. And the question I was asking at the beginning is, has the West Point Academy, we know it drifted off during the Biden administration. Is it still adrift, or has the Trump administration been able to pull it back to sanity completely?
Well, it actually started to drift before the Biden administration. I have one of my sons went to the academy, and it's a completely different place from where I went and my father went. They have drifted far away, and it starts at the top and works its way down. It got really bad during the Biden years, and they put a superintendent or superintendents into the academy. These are the 3 stars that run it that were in alignment with the leftist. And General Williams, who was the superintendent a few years ago, was big on CRT and DEI, very bad. And everyone below him took his cue and fell into step with him, because if you want to be successful in the military, you support your commander. And they did that with with enthusiasm that we wouldn't expect. The superintendent who just left, was just replaced, was part of the problem too, because he bought into the Biden doctrine of DEI CRT. It's embedded in the academy. I call it a cancer. So it worked its way down from the top, and the people they picked to come there reflect in many cases their views.
Wow. Is that because the accession process, the application and acceptance process, the folks are asked to do writing and those kind of things in the application process? So you're telling me that even that process was captured by this Marxist ideology?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And Secretary of War Hegseth said that will be taken out of consideration for the military academies. Navy, Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, you will not use that as a consideration. But what they've done is they very successfully renamed organizations and skirted the directive. And their Secretary Hegseth is doing a great job, but he's cutting the head off the weeds and the roots are still there. And so you have these people that think it's okay
when that happens,
because it's been going
but
on.
it does
for the last
happen. He'll get right
years.
back up here as soon.
Hey,
Ed,
quickly, Shell.
Ed, are
Did
you
I
still
hear
with me?
Steve gets past?
Ed, are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a disconnect there in my headset that sounded like. So this is going down a road that I wasn't quite expecting, but let me ask you this. So the students that have graduated the last 10 years, those officers, they're coming up on probably just made major or pinned on major down through second lieutenant. How bad is the indoctrination, do you think, through those ranks? Because I think most people are going to look at it logically and go, man, we can't kick them all out. We just spent millions and millions of dollars and years creating this officer corps. But I mean, those are the lion's share of your expected senior leaders to become generals in that cohort.
Exactly. And the problem is we don't know how bad this has infected the officer corps. But let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago, they graduated Spencer Rapone, the first open communist cadet. We may have had others, but we didn't know they were communists. They didn't admit it. But this guy was open about it. He was blatant. And his professor, who was a civilian, who was his mentor at the academy, was apparently a communist as well. So they brought all these civilians in. When I was there, it was almost completely military professors. We had a few civilians, but they were very selected. Now they have all these civilian professors, and what you're getting is a cross-cut of American university educated professors, which come from very different backgrounds than we do. They're not conservative. They don't have our visions. They don't share our background in the military or government. And so they're infecting these cadets. And then we have these military officers who allow this to happen. Now, we were fortunate that Colonel Heffington, one of the instructors for Spencer Rapone, reported him. But Heffington was shoved under the water and told, essentially, shut up. He was told, stay in your lane. It's not your business. And that's not right.
And so this professor, who was the chair of the history department, right, Ty Sedgwill, is that how you pronounce his name, Sedgwill? He was promoted to brigadier general, wasn't he?
Yes, and that's an honorific reward for making it to the finish line. My former boss, when I was teaching graduate history at the Army Staff College, was Colonel Morlock, PhD. And he aptly wrote a review and said, you know, this guy did not earn his rank of brigadier general like most of the generals in the Army. It's competitive. This is a non-competitive reward for making it to the finish line. His predecessor was relieved for sexual misconduct. That's how he became the head of the history department. His predecessor did not get rewarded with a brigadier general rank, and that's because of his sexual misconduct. Suppose if he had kept his nose clean, he might have been a brigadier general. But these guys didn't earn the rank. They were just giving it to him. And my boss, Colonel Morlock, said it's like the golden pen they give a CEO walking out the door, or a golden watch.
Is that the only place in the United States military where they do that? Because there's a rogue Air Force brigadier general retired that's transgender supporting Marxist wokists that actually protested recently in uniform out at the Air Force Academy. Is it the service academies the only places that happens?
I believe, in my own opinion, I don't know for a fact, but
Yeah.
I believe that's the only place.
And the Sedgwick guy, he's a Marxist, right? I mean, we have documentation that shows that, right?
Well, he's certainly in line with them. He says things that Marxists say. I can't vouch for a fact he is. My personal opinion he is, based on what he said. He's now employed by Hamilton College, and he's paid by the Soros family. And I'm connecting the dots.
Yeah.
I'm not a rocket scientist, but if you connect the dots, it sure smells like he's a Marxist.
Yeah. And because he's a brigadier general, wasn't he given a senior appointment onto this renaming commission when that fad was happening?
Yeah, Lloyd Austin, who is a DEI CRT proponent, was Secretary of the Army or Secretary of Defense at the time, appointed him, and then the committee voted him as the vice chair of that committee. Well, I checked the credentials of all the other members. I don't see any others that are military historians in that group. So what they did is they used him as the cudgel to slap those other people into line following his beliefs, using his credibility as, look, I'm a one-star, and look, I'm a professor emeritus, which is another honorific that was given to him.
So what made him famous like that, enough to be elevated to that? I mean, he's the chair of the history department at the West Point, for God's sake.
Well, in 2015 was a pivotal year. That's when Spencer Rapone came out as a communist. But that also is kind of a year, and I did the connect the dots on this, that the Southern Poverty Law Center was slapped down by Department of Defense and the FBI, who had been using their products for years, decades. And there's no doubt in my mind that this was stuff that Sedgwick was able to get hold of, because everything he says in his talking points is what the Southern Poverty Law Center says. And he got himself into a video that was put online and publicized widely by otherwise relatively conservative organization the Dennis Prager runs, the PragerU.
Oh, really?
And he was widely publicized. He wore his Army uniform to propose his own personal opinions, which the Military Academy Public Affairs Office said he was unauthorized to do. Because when he said, I am the head of the history department, he came across as if this was an official video. And the Public Affairs said the Academy gave him no permission to do that. And he was illegally, I guess, certainly against regulations, portraying that he was the official spokesman for the military academy on this subject of Robert E. Lee, which he then subsequently published a book on.
So Prager, you did the video before he published a book on Robert E. Lee?
Yes, sir.
And the video's about Robert E. Lee?
It's about he did two videos for them. He did one on cause of the Civil War, and he says it's slavery. And these videos have been widely criticized by other historians. And then he did one on Robert E. Lee, which he subsequently then published his book on, called Robert E. Lee and Me, another book that's been widely criticized by real historians. And there was an excellent review written by Colonel Barry Zase, PhD, former history instructor at West Point, who has immense credentials, being a super soldier, but he wrote a blistering review of Sedgwick's book, Robert E. Lee and Me.
Now that you mentioned other history professors at the academy, during Sedgell's time there, were his history professors following suit with him with this Marxist ideology and indoctrination stuff?
That's a good question, and I can't give you a definitive answer. The only one I know of personally is Colonel Heffington, who renounced that stuff. He reported Spencer Rapone for posting online radical posts about Marxism in the military. And then he confronted Rapone when Rapone was being very loud in an office next door to him. He filed an official report, which Sedgell had access to as the head of the department. It was reported. He knew about it. It was called gross misconduct. He was just way out of line, and he should have been punished. But he was obviously protected. Nothing happened. And then he graduated the very next year.
Yeah, and Rapone is the guy whose picture is everywhere showing his Che Guevara T-shirt underneath his academy uniform on graduation day, right?
Right.
And his hat says communism will win.
Exactly.
On the inside.
And he was given a commission, walked out the gate, reported to his unit, and only because of public outcry was he confronted and then punished by being removed from the Army. He should have never walked across that stage and given a diploma.
Yeah, and this guy is an Army infantryman enlisted before he got commissioned through the academy, right? So he's a known entity, right? I mean, he's
absolutely, and his classmates knew it. I mean, that wasn't a secret.
That should tell us something right there, that we've got bigger problems. So that was in 2015, 2016 timeframe. I'm going to show a clip here. And we can continue this discussion because the discussion is all about what you talk about in the article, but I think the clip is relevant. This is from, I think, 5 years ago during the pandemic. Go ahead and run clip 2, Mr. Producer.
Here with reaction, the 3 former West Point cadets who left the academy amid all of this, former cadets Hannah McDonald and Nikayla Sampson, who both processed from West Point last month, along with Willow Brown, who left the academy last spring. Willow, you left first. Let's start with you. Tell us your story.
So I went to the academy hoping to serve my country and bring the fight to the enemy. I found myself instead in the classroom learning about how to be more sensitive, and this woke ideology that had taken over West Point really surprised me. So as this vaccine came out, I hesitated and no questions were answered. I figured I was not learning how to better serve my country. I was instead learning about white rage, and I knew I had to leave. The country was becoming less safe. Our students were not learning about Chinese. They were learning about how to be more sensitive, and I thought it was ridiculous.
Hannah and Nikayla, can I ask you both, do you agree with that assessment? Is that accurate? Nikayla?
Yes, sir. This did happen. I don't remember being there in person because I didn't go to these briefs, but I remember talk about these briefs that were happening about white rage and about extremism, and I thought it was ridiculous. It really had nothing to do with bettering yourself as an army officer.
Yeah, and let me ask you, Hannah, is that the same experience you had?
Yes, sir. So I had the privilege of tutoring plebes this semester in English, and I found that a lot of them were writing papers on critical race theory and socialism, and I asked why they were writing these things, and they said they didn't agree with it, but they thought their professors would enjoy it because that was in line with the books they were reading.
Wow. That was several years ago, as I mentioned, but it must have been just quite plainly right there in front of everybody's faces. You mentioned that one of the professors during that time frame, but is there any record of any of the commissioned officers objecting to this infiltration of West Point in the Service Academy?
I'm not aware of any. And I can only assume that Heffington published a open letter when he retired about how bad it had gotten at West Point. And the natural knee-jerk reaction was the superintendent, General Caslin, immediately the next day published a letter to the graduates saying, this is all wrong, it's not right. Of course, it's very defensive, but Heffington, had no reason to lie about it. And his letter is very detailed. He points out all these problems, and the academy, rather than trying to address these issues, circled the wagons and said, oh no, Heffington's just crazy. He's not telling the truth. Well, I believe Heffington. I've read his detailed letter. I said, this sounds like what I've heard and seen.
Yeah, where could folks find that letter? Do you know? Is it posted on the MacArthur Society site somewhere? Do we know?
I don't know if his letter is, but his report on Spencer Rapone is posted there. But I can get you the answer. I'll find out where the letter is.
Yeah, and we'll post it on the show notes for this show because this is very important, Colonel Kennedy. We saw the secretary's speech. That was this year at the West Point graduation. Here in a minute, we'll show President Trump's from last year. So the orders have been given. There are executive orders out there, and the Secretary of War, I know, has signed orders directing the service academies to remove all vestiges of DEI and harmful ideologies. Do we know how that's going?
Well, it's hard to tell because the academies control the information. The MacArthur Society has tried numerous times through FOIA requests to get information, and they've been stonewalled and blocked. I called up there just to get some simple information. I was given, shuttled around, passed off to 4 different people and never given an answer. So trying to get the information from the academy is very difficult. They should be very open about it, but they look like they're defending themselves and they're trying to protect their bosses by not giving any information out. I can't say for sure, but it looks like the intent was do only what's necessary, but don't do it.
But don't do what? You broke up there.
Don't do any more than's necessary.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's pretty indicative of what we've seen across institutions, not just at the federal level, but the state level has to deal, especially the university systems have to deal with the executive orders too. And what I've seen so far from others reporting, and plus my own experience walking through buildings, is that they've done the things necessary to prevent people from finding it on the web and those kind of things. But you can walk through any university and see the posters, the official posters from the academic administration there pretty easily, from what I could see.
And I think this will continue unless we have another administration. It's been embedded for so long through the Obama and Biden administrations. It's going to take a while to root this out.
Well, yeah. I mean, if the new majors all the way down through second lieutenant have been indoctrinated so thoroughly with this stuff, they're what we call true believers, more than likely. Now, the fact that they're in the military, like you said, it's a good news, bad news thing, because most folks that are in the military, when they get a legal order, they're going to execute that order. And if their bosses sees that as important, then they're going to do it to their best of their ability, so they can continue to advance and not get kicked out of the military. But that's also a bad news problem, because it masks the reality of what people are thinking and what they believe, right?
Absolutely does. And the sad thing is, it's the military culture. You're not going to go against your boss if it's a legal order. But now we have an ethical and moral dilemma. Are we supposed to be teaching communism and socialism? And it's not, as General Milley used to say, well, you need to read about it to know about it. They're going further than that. They're indoctrinating them into this CRT, DEI, communist, socialist theory, saying, well, this is the way we should do things.
Yeah, I think it's important for folks to understand this is not about what we used to do against communism in the Soviet Union and China is studying what the ideology is, how it gets translated into a government, and then how it gets translated into a military and military action. That is studying an enemy, and communism is an enemy of the United States. But we now have commissioned officers that have sworn to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, which is antithetical to communism, that may or may not believe and actually be communists like Rapone was.
And it's sad because these young cadets, many of them believe in America. They want to do the right thing, but they get there and all of a sudden they're going, this is not the way I thought I should be. I have to believe this new theory in order to be successful in the military. So they don't have the experience and they don't have the capabilities to thwart that when they have a professor or a uniform officer standing up there saying, this is the way it should be. And they have to go to these DEI CRT classes.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question about the commissioned officers during this time frame of Sedgwick's time frame, especially about if anybody objected because of their oath.
Well, it's the whack-a-mole. If you raise your head, you get whacked. From my own personal experience at the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College, I have a friend of mine who was a civilian PhD, had been there for years teaching history. He raised his head and they slam dunked him. They couldn't fire him because he was under Title V. All the new instructors are Title X, which means they don't have to have due process. They can fire him for just looking sideways. But he was Title V. They made his life miserable. He had a heart attack on the job and died at his desk.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's all because he raised his head.
Incredible. So what year was that?
This is probably about 6 years ago this happened to him.
Yeah, so right in the heart of this, right in the heart.
Well, he dared to bring up the issue of, he taught the Civil War elective to the students at the CGSC, the Command and General Staff College. He brought up the issue of why there were memorials and monuments to soldiers. And he said, should we be tearing down memorials and monuments? And he just wanted to have the discussion because he thought it related to what happened for reconciliation after the war. And the administration at the Army Staff College slam dunked him, told him to shut up, not to talk about that. And they put the pressure on him. And the stress, I guess, got to him.
Wow. That's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate because, it's linked to this guy that's still a brigadier general and a professor emeritus from West Point, Ty Sedgwick, who was one of the two senior guys on the renaming commission, which was all focused at the mostly false historical narrative that was created in the Summer of Love and all that mess, and resulted in things happening that weren't supposed to happen according to the law, like the removal of what's called the Reconciliation Monument, which is really the gravestone of the sculpture in Arlington Cemetery. Now, the president and the secretary of War have said to put that monument back in Arlington, but I don't think it's been reinstalled yet. And it's probably in bureaucratic morass at this point.
Well, what's happened is the NDAA that just got passed by the House of Representatives defunds replacing it back where it should go. The Senate has not passed the NDAA, but if they do, because Senator Warren, influenced by Sedgwick, put in there shall be no money to replace that monument back in Arlington. Unless the senators overturn that decision, it's going to be defunded and it will not go back during this administration.
Which is sad because that was a monument to the successful reintegration and restoration of the Union is what it's a monument for, in addition to being the grave marker for the sculpture. The Sedgwick's impact negatively still continues to harm the United States Military Academy and the Army and really the War Department itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There's a beautiful memorial that was in place at West Point given by the class of 1961. It was called Reconciliation Plaza. And it had soldiers from both sides, Confederate and Union, to honor their service. And he went in there and made sure that that got torn up and they took the Confederates out. And that was a class gift that was given back in 2001 to the Academy. Cost a lot of money. We're talking about millions of dollars raised by the class. And he had that damaged and destroyed, taking out the Confederates, which is 50% of the Reconciliation Memorial. So he's done a lot of damage.
Yeah, and does he continue to do damage by publicly going out and talking about this stuff and people believe in him?
Absolutely. And sadly, we've tried to get Prager University to take that video or take his videos down because he portrayed himself as a spokesman for the Army when he wore his uniform. He said he was the head of the history department. People don't know. They go, oh, look, there's a full colonel in his uniform giving this information like it's the gospel. It's his own personal opinion, but that's not the way he portrayed it in the videos. And now PragerU has been publishing these for 10 years, showing them over and over.
Yeah.
It's hurting us.
It is hurting us. And PragerU is a really well-liked conservative institution now. It's been institutionalized as part of the conservative movement, even the anti-establishment movement.
They drank the CRT Kool-Aid because that's what Sedgwick pushes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, we're going to show a little clip here from the President of the United States from last year's West Point Academy graduation address. Go ahead, Mr. Producer, clip 3.
Good evening. I'm Jessica McLean. Thank you for joining us. President Trump shared big news with West Point graduates at today's commencement ceremony and said the era of transgender soldiers and critical race theory is over. Christian Benavides has more.
President Trump told West Point cadets at their commencement ceremony on Saturday that they are entering a golden age of a military he has worked to rebuild.
This is a time of incredible change, and we do not need an officer corps of careerists and yes men and people that want to keep it going the way it's been, because it changes rapidly, especially what you're doing.
The president also told cadets that he has worked to get rid of so-called woke military generals and eliminate diversity programs.
There will be no more critical race theory or transgender for everybody forced onto our brave men and women in uniform or on anybody else for that matter in this country.
The president.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, there's the president himself talking about BEI and drag queens and all that, and how West Point is not the place for that, nor is the U.S. military and everything. But you've got this guy, Sedgwick. He seems like he's a one-man wrecking crew. And is got this spider web of influence, and he's attached to something called the Chamberlain Project. What is that? I mean, Joshua Chamberlain, the General Chamberlain, was a hero of the Union.
he was a great general, but this Chamberlain program is designed to go out and find woke military officers that are retired and get them into colleges to be teachers and professors at colleges. And they went out, got hold of Sedgwick, and apparently he's now employed at Hamilton College, a very liberal college in New York. And his paycheck, apparently, from what I've found online, comes from the Soros people. So, you know, you can draw your own conclusions. We know what the Soroses believe. So if they're paying him, then, you know, my logical deduction would be he's in line with them.
Yeah, I mean, the Soroses are big backers of the Democratic Socialists of America, the communists, as the president of the United States has dubbed them. And those are the rest of us that know what communism is, know that too. So I wonder if we'll see Mr. Sedgwick in uniform speaking at DSA events and elected officials who are backed by the DSA's events, like the mayor of New York City, anytime in the future. What can folks do to support the administration's effort to continue to clean this out and get as far as we can get before they're out of office?
Great question. I just put in the mail this morning a packet with the article I wrote about woke at West Point, sent it to Secretary of War Hegseth and said, "You're doing a great job. We appreciate it, but you got to get to the roots and dig the roots out, because this cancer's spreading and you've gotten rid of the face of it, but you got to get down and dig the roots out because it's still there." And I would recommend he revoke that honorific Professor Emeritus title as the first step. I don't know what they can do about that rank, but it's an honorific. I would assume that Secretary of War Hegseth can sign a directive saying revoke his honorific rank, but they definitely can get rid of the Professor Emeritus, because that gives him credibility to go out and speak and to do things in public. And people go, wow, he must be important because he's a general or he's a Professor Emeritus. He must be really special. So if they write to the Secretary of War Hegseth, call their senators, tell them, get this guy, and you don't call them if they're a Democrat because they won't do it, but call the Republicans and say, get his Professor Emeritus status revoked. You know, do something to this guy because he is going against our country.
Yeah, he is. He is going against our country. And the scary part is that all of the people that he's created with this indoctrination, and then outside of the Department of War. So, I mean, that should frighten you folks, that the Department of War is this infiltrated and has Marxism embedded in it so deep. And I'm not talking about the building of the Pentagon, although there are problems there. Well, there are problems there. We just saw a video released of a resistor that's a senior civilian leader inside the Navy Department saying we're going to reverse everything Trump does, especially regarding this stuff, after he leaves, because we'll still be here. That's what they think, and that's what they say. Are there any moves afoot to address how to get to the root? Because it's not like you can't cut the head off and it's like a snake where you cut the head off of a snake and it's done. This is, you may have taken the top of the tree, but it's a tree and the roots of the tree go very, very deep and wide.
I think because of the climate that's being established by Secretary Hegseth, it will eventually change the culture, but I think we're going to need another administration like the current one before we really root it out, because a lot of these guys are crawling into their holes and they're saying, we'll wait them out. We've only got 2 more years.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, I think his name was Brandon Newsom, that O'Keefe revealed last week. He's just one small tip of the iceberg in the War Department. I mean, it's bad. I get reports, confidential, anonymous reports every week about you need to look at these people or this area and all that. They're putting up roadblocks to implementing policy and those kinds of things. So, I mean, you've taught at CGSC for almost 20 years, Ed. When you were there, Civil War battles were still being taught, right? You studied those. People
It was
studied
the
those,
most
right?
popular elective we had was a staff ride to Chickamauga, Georgia, which was a 1-week staff ride. It was a 9-week course. We studied the battle for 8 weeks in the classroom, gave presentations. It was in-depth study. And then we took the students for a week to study the campaign at Chickamauga. It was the most popular elective, and they had to be selected. The students could not just sign up and go. You were selected. So it was competitive. But when 9/11 happened, the money dried up, and this stuff started going away because we couldn't do it. You know, the war was going on.
Yeah.
So then they got on this kick a couple of years ago. They took down all these beautiful prints that had been donated to the college of different battles. And there were the ones from the Civil War were very popular. And they were all over the hallways. And then we had a couple of people complain saying, these have Confederates in them. Take them down. And they did. These beautiful prints had been donated. They were battle prints teaching history. And the interesting thing is, I taught about 100 foreign officers a year that come there, had to mandatorily take our Civil War elective. And those guys had very open minds, unlike the Americans who they knew what they knew and you couldn't change their minds. These guys were very open-minded, and it was fun teaching them because they were there to really learn and get into our American culture. And very different views than most of the American officers.
Why were they required to take the Civil War elective? Do you know?
It was part of our way to I don't want to say indoctrinate them, to acculturate them to American culture, to understand America. And the war was a defining factor. And now it's been, pushed under the rug. They don't like talking about it. You know, they took the prints down inside the hallways. So you can't discuss it if it's not there.
Yeah. And has it been the battles, the strategy and tactics that were once taught about the major Civil War movements and from the major leaders pitted against each other? That was once taught in depth. And our greatest 20th century combat leaders like Dwight Eisenhower all learned those. What do you think it's done to weaken the education of our military officers, especially our ground officers who need to know about those kinds of things the most?
It's diluted their education. And it's a sad thing when we have foreign officers that know more about our Civil War than our officers do. They don't understand what these leaders during the war did. Men like Emory Upton, who later had a major impact on the Army, they don't know why he had that influence. The German liaison officer at Fort Benning, who I'm friends with, unfortunately just rotated back to Germany, wrote his master's thesis on Emory Upton and the effects the war had on his post-war doctrine for the U.S. Army. And if you don't understand the context of Emory Upton, who grew up during the American Civil War, then how do you understand why he influenced and how he did it after the war? He had a major impact on us. But this German knows more about it than most American officers.
Yeah, not just that, but, as a commander, understanding American young people and what they're all about, it's extremely important to have an understanding of the history of the country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, isn't it?
Amen. No arguments from me.
Yeah. Well, your son graduated from West Point in 2008. So now you're a graduate and a dad of a graduate. What do you think the next generation of cadets can do or should be like in order to overcome this Marxist indoctrination effort that's been going on for decades now?
Wow, that's an interesting question, because when I went to West Point, the military draft was still on, the war in Vietnam was still going. And unfortunately, the academy, even back then, was taking people based primarily on academics. And they didn't really care about what these people wanted to do in the future. So I had a roommate, my first roommate, said, I'm not here to be an Army officer. I'm going to do 2 years before I'm required to have a commitment, take all the education and benefits, and then I'm leaving. And unfortunately, they knew about it, but they were so afraid of losing cadets, the attrition problem. They let him stay, trying to encourage him to become an Army officer. He had no interest. He said he didn't want to be an Army officer. He was there to avoid the draft. And that's the problem we have. If we don't call these people out when they're applying and say, do you understand you're coming to be an Army officer to lead soldiers in combat, and tell them this is what we expect of you, and have them say, I agree to that, and we're interested in skin color and whether they play sports well, then we're going to have that kind of problem in the future. And right now we've got a bunch of good kids there. There's a lot of them that are really good kids, but we also have some that have come in for the wrong reason.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate perspective and an unfortunate reality that we live in today. And I just think that we've also got to attack the problem of where were the commissioned officers under oath to the Constitution when all this stuff was being put in place? Because at some point, we teach all of us, whether we're academy graduates or officer training school or ROTC, that your oath is the priority. And if you see something that's going to hurt the Constitution, that's like an unlawful order, you should be standing up. And we've got to get back to that.
Well, unfortunately, we saw what happened to Heffington. As soon as he pointed it out, he got attacked by the superintendent. And had he remained on active duty, he probably would have unfortunate consequences to his career.
Absolutely. Well, Ed, thank you so much for talking with me about this article today. We'll get it out on the video here in the post-production version. I'll send you a copy of a link to the copy of the show that comes out. But it's very important, folks. And Ed, where can they find, are you on social media in the MacArthur Society?
Yes, sir. If they go to MacArthur Society and on their webpage, the title page, it has articles on a little band across the top. They go there, they'll see some superlative articles about what we're trying to fix at West Point and the Army.
Yeah, great Americans. Great Americans. Thanks, Ed. We appreciate it. Keep up the great work, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on.
You bet. Tomorrow, folks, is Truth Thursday. My guest is Alex McFarland returning. His efforts were harmed severely by the lies told by Dr. Tony Fauci, who took the Fifth Amendment 111 times in his testimony today, even though he has a unconditional, unlimited pardon from the auto pen president. Alex will tell the story of all the horrendous things that Fauci's lies caused in his experience. I'll see you then.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you.